Hey, Joshua.
Hey, oh wait, no, I can see myself now. I thought you were
Okay.
covering me on the poster. I was going to have to ask you to move over.
Well, I've got your S's on, so we're all good there.
Oh, cool, nice.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for taking the time today. I appreciate it.
Hey, no worries. Thanks for having me. Thanks for coming to talk to me.
Oh, my pleasure. I've been looking forward to it. I'm a huge fan of Connor Kent and Superboy, so to get to talk to you is a pleasure. And first thing I want to ask is, we'll get into Connor in a minute, but last week's episode was a big one. Lots of people talking online about it. I'm assuming you've seen it. What was your reaction?
Oh, I loved it. I think it's been a long time coming. Beast Boy fans, I hope, feel really well served by this episode, and it was actually because I knew that Jeff Johns was coming in to write it, and Ryan Potter was gonna have a hand in the story, and he was gonna have a lot of creative input. I was very excited about this episode all season, and when the script came in and was being developed, I deliberately didn't look at it. I didn't want to read it. So when I watched the episode last week, I was watching it fresh. I didn't really have. I mean, I knew a few things, but I hadn't read the script, so I wanted to watch it as much like just a regular viewer as possible. And yeah, I loved it. I was so happy and proud of what Ryan and those guys were able to achieve. And I think that they really did. They did a lot for Beast Boy and the Beast Boy fans, and those people have been waiting, I think, for this episode for a long time. And that's not to mention the end sequence, which was just like mind blowing. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. But yeah, no, I loved the episode. I really enjoyed sitting back and watching it just as a fan. So yeah, it was great.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. So many good cameos and setups and callbacks. And just as a fan, it was super fun to watch.
Yeah.
So obvious question out of the way, the head shaving. Did you volunteer for that? Did they ask you to do it? Did you do a bald cap? What was the deal with that?
Well, very kindly, they gave me the choice. Greg Walker came up to me one day, and that's our showrunner. He goes, how would you feel about shaving your head? And I was like, well, okay, that gives me a clue as to the direction we might be heading in. I was open to the idea, but what really sealed the deal was he said, well, you have two choices. First choice, you can shave your head for real. Second choice, we can do a bald cap, and you can come in 3 hours early every day. And sometimes, we start early in the morning. So I'd be coming in at 2, 3 in the morning to have a bald cap applied to me, which, yeah, it's a 3-hour process. And I was like, you know what? I like sleeping and I'm not that attached to my hair. So yeah, let's shave it off. Yeah, it was nice of them to give me the option. Titus Welliver, who played Lex Luthor in episode 1, he wore a bald cap. Unfortunately, he didn't get the choice because he was going on to do another role after that. But from what I saw, it didn't look like a whole lot of fun having to wear one of those. So I was happy to just bite the bullet and shave it off.
Well, what elements did you focus on? Speaking of Lex and Titus's performance, what elements did you focus on in these episodes, like this week's episode number 10, Game Over, to shift from? We saw a little bit of your evil genius side, but now we're getting more into like the business suave suit, whiskey drinking Luthor side. What did you focus on to change the role?
Well, I think in many ways, what Connor is doing there is not an authentic portrayal of who Lex is. It's more of a superficial mimicry, according to the brief kind of amount of time that he's had to meet and observe and study Lex and who he is. So he's taking these superficial elements and he's kind of just putting them on like a costume. And he's walking around being the LexCorp CEO, and he's bringing that kind of corporate swagger, and I don't think there's much depth to it, to be honest, because it's kind of playing at being Lex Luthor more so than it's kind of really authentically being himself and incorporating those elements of Lex that are true to him and who he is. But nonetheless, it's quite fun. So we take certain things, maybe I luckily was able to get episode 1 because I think it wasn't fully completed yet, but it was almost done, and they gave me a copy of that to watch before we shot episode 10, so that I could look at Titus's performance and maybe take a thing or two of what he was doing. And there are a couple of lines of dialogue. You'll have to look pretty hard for this in episode 10, but where I've taken something that Titus has said, I'm like, oh yeah, Connor's heard that, and now he's going to say the same thing, or he's going to say this word the same way that Lex said it, just to kind of sprinkle a little bit of that mimicry in there. So yeah, it's more of an imitation than anything else, and it's not really Connor's authentic self, but it's something that he's trying out.
Yeah, I think that comes through. A little bit of it is his DNA, and part of it is also just him trying to be what he knew of that person, since he had so little time with him. Another co-star, Joseph Morgan, you share a lot of screen time with him in this episode and the ones coming up. It's basically you and him for most of your scenes, and he seems like an intense person to share a scene with. And is it tense and themed?
Well, yeah, in a good way. Yeah, Joseph is a lovely, lovely guy, and an excellent collaborator. He's really open and receptive to ideas from anyone, really, but particularly he made me feel my input feel really valued. And working with Jesse, our director, on this episode, it just felt like a really open and warm collaboration. He's an immensely talented and skilled actor, and he brings just as fantastic, as you say, like a raw intensity and an emotional core to this character, Sebastian. And there's a real vulnerability to him, but at the same time, there's also this, I want to say like scariness, but it's not that. It's a feeling like he's threatening to kind of go off the deep end at any point, and he could just snap. And it's hard to quantify or to explain, but getting into a scene and working with Joseph, you feel like anything could happen, and it's always very exciting. So playing those scenes with him was highly enjoyable, and I think that we really explored that relationship to the fullest extent that we could during that episode, and it's interesting to watch to see how that turned out. Each of these characters have their own motivations, and sometimes those align and sometimes those conflict, and that affects the power dynamic between them and who's influencing who, kind of thing. That all that stuff's really interesting as an actor to kind of delve into and grapple with. So yeah, I really enjoyed working with Joseph, and love what he's doing with Sebastian, and I'm glad to see that the fans are receptive to that.
Yeah, I feel like there's almost a kinship there between Connor and Sebastian. I think Connor sees a lot of his insecurities and needing to belong, and maybe you agree with me that I felt like Connor almost wanted his Sebastian's game to work, so he didn't have to shut him down. I mean, do you feel that was the way, or do you think he was just keeping his friends close and his enemies even closer?
Yeah, I think there's an element of both at the back of his mind. And you know, I'm sure when he really searches his heart, Connor is unwilling to hurt innocent people, ultimately, you know. So when he realized that that was the case, he felt like he'd lost control of the situation and he has to shut it down. We're in spoiler territory now, by the way. I didn't mean to jump into that, but yeah. Did he want his game to work? I don't know. I think for him, Sebastian is a means to an end, and to the detriment of Connor. And he really should have a little more empathy for Sebastian, rather than just using him as a tool to achieve his ultimate goal, which is to defeat Mother Mayhem. So maybe if he'd shown a little more genuine empathy, rather than coming at Sebastian from an angle of how can I manipulate this guy into to achieve what I want to achieve, yeah, things might have turned out a little bit differently. But in principle, yeah, I think Connor was happy enough to kind of align with Sebastian in that moment and facilitate his game. But once those darker elements come into play, and once he becomes aware of the consequences of what Sebastian's actually doing, no, that's definitely untenable. So really, he couldn't allow that to to continue.
Well, I mean, we are in the home stretch of episodes ever for Titans. Retrospectively, is there a moment upcoming or in the past that will stand out as your favorite that you had?
Oh my goodness. It's been such a ride from the introduction of this character back in the middle of season 2 to now. It's very tough to pick a favorite moment. I think that I'll say one of my top 5 moments. Have you seen the end of the season, by the way?
I've seen it all.
You've seen it all. So you'll probably know what I'm talking about. But there's a moment at the very, very end of season 4, final episode, the finale. Yeah, I think you already know what I'm gonna say. Without giving it away, there's a moment where it's something happens. Connor gets to do something, and it's exhilarating and satisfying and just truly awesome. And I'm so thankful that we had the opportunity to even have a little glimpse of what the future holds for that character.
I'm glad you teased that because I was going to try to get you to tease it in some way, but
yeah, it's tough to talk about, right? Because I don't want to give anything away, but
yeah, absolutely. So, sort of fun theoretical question for you: if you were to randomly inherit the finances and influence of someone like a Lex Luthor, what would be your first action in real life?
Oh my goodness. Probably something really, really silly. I'd probably invest a whole bunch of money in personally acquiring like jetpacks or something like that. Just investing money in the development of technology that just benefits no one but myself, just for the sake of having a bit of fun. Yeah, I don't know, jetpacks, teleportation technology, and then eventually I'd probably come to my senses and undertake some philanthropic enterprises, some charity work. I'd like to think after all the fun was had. After I developed a working lightsaber, I'd go and deal with the problems of the world, poverty and famine, disease, etc. But yeah, first things first, jetpacks and lightsabers.
Well, yes, lightsabers always a necessity.
Yeah,
I would invest in that with you. So what was it like for you on your last day on set? Was it emotional? Was it just kind of a quiet moment for you, or how did it all work out at the end?
it was a bittersweet feeling. I was feeling immensely grateful for the whole experience of being able to come onto this show and play this role. Grateful that the people in charge, the people who created the show, felt confident enough in me and had the faith in me to give me this opportunity. There was an element of sadness. It's tough to say goodbye to a character that you've spent so much time with and really fallen in love with. But at the same time, I'm so happy and satisfied and grateful that I couldn't really be too sad. I was just happy and appreciative of the moment and the experience, and just appreciative of the fact that I get to walk away feeling like we left it all out there, where there's nothing that I really regret or nothing that I really do differently.
Yeah, I think the fans are really going to enjoy the finale, especially when it comes to what we see of Connor at the end. So I'm super excited for everyone else to get to see it, and I really appreciate the time and your portrayal. It's been a lot of fun seeing one of my favorite characters come into live action with the gusto that you brought to it. So appreciate your time, Joshua, and good luck going forward. We're going to see anything soon? You got any projects coming up?
I can't really talk about anything at this stage, but thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate the love and the goodwill that I've experienced from the fans thus far and now. Likewise, I really hope that the fans enjoy these final episodes coming out. But thank you.
Great. Well, good luck to you. Appreciate it.